right, in part 2 here of 9.2, now we're going to look at when the denominators are polynomials, meaning more than one term. Okay? You must factor denominators first to find your common denominator, because you're going to do the common denominator is going to be the least common multiple. So here's what I mean. And you don't have to factor anything in the top, even if it is factorable. So what we're going to do here is, now notice it's a subtraction in the middle. We'll deal with that negative sign here in a little bit. But I want to look at this denominator right here. Okay, that is factorable. I can take a 3 out of those two terms. So I have a 3, and then that leaves me with x minus 5. Over on this side, if I look at this one, I can take a 6 out, and I'm left with x minus 5. Whoops, that's x minus 5 there. All right, so now, what is my least common multiple or my common denominator? I have to look at the 3 and the 6. I want the two numbers are numeric factors. What's the smallest number they both go into? Okay, well, that would be 6. Or if you think of it the way I broke it down earlier, 6 is 2 times 3. I need my 2 factor and I need my 3 factor. So 2 times 3 would be 6. Smallest number they go into is 6. Now notice I have my x minus 5 factor. They're both to the first power, so I need that x minus 5. We did LCMs of polynomials earlier where we had to factor first. That's all you're doing here to find your common denominator. So there's my common denominator. All right. Let's take a look here, and you've got to show your work step by step right here. So my common denominator is 6 times x minus 5. All right, so if I look here, I'm going to rewrite this just because I've been circling some stuff. So I really have this in the first one. Okay, and then I have minus 3x plus 15. And over here I have 6 and x minus 5. Okay, so just because it was getting a little messy up there, that's why I wanted to rewrite this. So if I look down here, I have the 3 times the x minus 5 binomial factor. What do I multiply that by to get my common denominator? Well, I have to multiply by 2 to get the 6 out in front. I already have the x minus 5 factor, so I need to multiply the bottom by 2, which means I multiply the top by 2. Very key here. See how you had 2 terms on top? You originally had x plus 10, what I haven't read. That needs to be put in parentheses then, because I'm going to multiply that by 2. Okay? On the second one, I already have my common denominator. Okay? 6 and x minus, so I'm really multiplying by 1, which doesn't really change it. But there's going to be a key thing here that we'll look at. So what do I get on top? Here I need to distribute my 2. So that's going to be 2x plus 20. So we're multiplying this by 1, but now here's the key. Negative sign or a minus sign in the middle. That really means I'm distributing that negative sign or negative 1 to both those terms. Common mistake here. Okay, so it would be minus 3x, okay, and then minus 15. You distribute that opposite sign to both those, it changes them to negative. Now I can go one step further here. I have 6, and then an x minus 5 on the bottom. If I look at the top, what I have written in blue, what can I combine? Well, I can combine my 2x and negative 3x into negative 1x or negative x. I can combine my plus 20 and minus 15 together to plus 5. All right, can I go any further? And this is where it's key, and you need to be listening. I want you to notice, oops, sorry about that. I want you to notice and think about what we talked about earlier. That and that. Do you see how the x has the opposite sign and the 5 has the opposite sign? They are opposites of each other. We can reduce. You can cancel that factor with that if I multiply by negative 1. So I'm going to put times negative 1 on top, because then those factors could have canceled, because they're opposites of each other. Both terms had the opposite sign. So now if you notice, I don't have any variables left. Basically my answer is the negative 1/6. And that would be your answer on that. Okay? Last thing, complex fractions. All right, you want to, I'm just going to write this down, so put this in your notes, must simplify top and bottom into one fraction by finding common denominators, then multiply by the reciprocal of the bottom fraction. Remember, when we have a fraction divided by a fraction, we looked at that a little earlier. Want to multiply by the reciprocal. All right, so let's look at this example. On the top, now I'm going to make this a fraction on the bottom first. So I'm looking at my top right here. My common denominator, here's my division sign. So my common denominator would be AB. Notice you have an A, a factor of A, and a factor of B, so it's AB. Now, what do I multiply the left fraction? On the bottom, I have an A, I got to multiply by B. So I'm going to multiply by B on top. Okay, so I have 1B or B. On the right side, what do I multiply this B by? To get AB, I multiply by A. So it's plus A, or plus 1A. On the bottom, what's your common denominator? If I look at these two denominators, my common denominator is B. Now, I multiply by 1 here, so that doesn't change anything. I'm going to get a 1. Here, I have to multiply by B, so I multiply the top by B. So I have minus 1B or minus B. So what I've done there is found a common denominator on top combined into one fraction, found a common denominator on the bottom combined into one fraction. Now you want to multiply by the reciprocal of this fraction. So I'm going to leave my top fraction as B plus A over AB. And I'm going to change it. This is a complex fraction now. So I'm going to multiply by B all over 1 minus B. Now we're using our rules for multiplying fractions. I multiply the tops, multiply the bottoms. So I have a monomial single factor of B times B plus A. So I'm going to write the B out in front and then the B plus A. And then on the bottom, I have a monomial factor of AB. And I'm going to multiply that by 1 minus B, so that must go in parentheses. Now, can I reduce anything? Notice, this is multiplication, there's multiplication there. These B's can cancel because of multiplication. I can't cancel my B inside the factor of 1 minus B with the B and the B plus A factor. So what am I left with? B plus A on top. Now, because this B canceled out in front, you don't really have to leave the B plus A inside parentheses anymore. You can. Okay, and on the bottom, I have an A out in front and a 1 minus B. That would be as far as you can go. Okay, I can't cancel the A out in front with the A on top because there's a plus sign between the B plus A on top. So that would be simplified right there.